Nikola Jokic has completed, arguably, one of the greatest runs in NBA playoff history. This on the heels of back-to-back league MVPs, which could have easily been a third straight, if not for a pathetic and desperate last-second push by the media to award Joel Embiid a pity MVP award.
I just think that this is his year, and the way that he has played, it's not a sympathy vote for me because I voted for him last year.
Jokic avenges the thievery of his third league MVP by ripping the NBA Finals MVP and with it the championship, his first of what seems could be many to come. It comes in his aged 28th season, and he just missed out on a triple-double average for the entire playoffs by only 0.5 of an assist per game, as Jokic's stat line this postseason was outright historic, averaging 30 points per game, 13.5 rebounds, and 9.5 assists per game on eye-popping shooting splits of 54% from the field, 47% from three, and 81% from the free throw line. Jokic captures the title, despite not having one single All-Star on his entire roster. And that's not just this season. No one on this roster, aside from Jokic, has ever made an All-Star game at any point of their entire careers. There are not any All-NBA performers on this roster aside from Jokic. When factoring in the stat line and the supporting cast, it's difficult not to come away mind blown amid the weight of the enormity of what Jokic just accomplished. And Nikola Jokic is as unlikely a vessel for arguably the best playoff run ever as anyone you could possibly imagine. But make no mistake, this is no fluke. For a guy who became a meme for his lack of aesthetic appeal as a child, has now thoroughly destroyed an era of basketball players that have been routinely heralded for their superior athleticism. Nikola Jokic has now led the NBA in virtually every advanced metric by a substantial margin for the last 3 consecutive years. He led these playoffs in PER, win share, VORP, and BPM. Jokic is now second in NBA history in career player efficiency rating, behind only Michael Jordan. And Jokic is first all-time in career box plus minus, ahead of Jordan at 2. But it's not all just about these meaningless, advanced analytic acronyms fabricated by the media to diminish the alleged efficiency of true winners while building some fantastical case of fake dominance for others who simply can't get it done when it matters most. No, these stats, both advanced and standard, never really meant much of anything to Jokic.
To be honest, I just think it's a win, because if we lose, nobody's gonna even mention. To be honest, I don't care. It's just a stat.
Despite the implications by the media that it did.
Are you sitting here and saying Nikola Jokic is having his numbers padded? Is that what you're saying?
You heard what the hell I said. I said
Jokic isn't just your standard stat patter we've become accustomed to seeing in this era. He actually cares about winning more than anything else. And the stats mean nothing if he doesn't, the way it used to be for all-time greats in other eras. Oh, but this is the most superior of all eras we have all been led to believe. The implication that any achievement in any other time is diminished because of the lack of athletically viable competitors. It's bad enough that every semi-illiterate 17-year-old with a Twitter handle spews this idiocy of the, quote, plumber era that Russell, Magic, Bird, Jordan, and countless other immortals played in. But there are even former players from this very era with major media platforms ignorant enough to parrot these preposterous claims.
You also had 29 assists in an NBA game.
Oh, well, he was being guarded by plumbers and firemen.
And now, as we stand in the aftermath of the sheer and utter obliteration of this generation of advanced athletes by a guy who can barely run up and down the court or jump over a stack of newspapers, maybe it's time to reevaluate some things. Fitting that Jokic goes straight through the heart of LeBron James and Kevin Durant, this alleged greatest era's alleged greatest players. In these playoffs, Jokic led all players in points with 600, rebounds with 269, and assists with 190. He becomes the first player in NBA history to lead the playoffs in all three major categories. This is a guy who was selected in the second round of the draft during a Taco Bell commercial. The biggest knock on him was his athleticism and lack of explosion. But if this inferior athlete can stand heads and shoulders above all of the rest in this day and age, perhaps we can finally, once and for all, remove the perceived asterisks from all other eras, or perhaps it's time to question how good this era really is.